Will Luka Doncic end his NBA career as a top point guard? There's a lot of guys on this list. There are different lists out here, but there are some legit ones. But I'm just going to run on some names and kind of put them in this space and kind of compare him to some of these guys. Top 25, starting with Rod Strickland, Maurice Cheeks, 24. You got Mark Price at 23. Boston Celtics. Dennis Johnson at 22. Kevin Johnson at 21. Tim Hardaway at 20, the great Lenny Wilkins at 19. Chauncey Billups made the list at 18. 17 is Tony Parker. 16 is Kyrie Irving. Now, this is just one of the lists. It's not, there's so many lists out here. I just picked this one because this one seems like it was on point to a certain extent. Mark Jackson at 15. Chris Paul, 14. Russell Westbrook, 13. Gary Payton at 12. Nate Archibald at 11. Clyde Frazier at 10. Isaiah Thomas is at 9. That's pretty low, but... Steve Nash is at 8. I don't think he's a better point guard than Isaiah Thomas, but we're going to leave it at that. Jason Kidd's at 7. Bob Cousy is at 6. I think that's a little too high myself. I think it's because of the championships, but Steph Curry's at 5. Jerry West is 4. John Stockton is number 3, which that's probably about right in my book. I don't know. I was a huge John Stockton fan. Oscar Robertson is at 2, and Magic Johnson is at number 1. I have a few questions with a couple of those spots, but for the most part, this is a formative list. You can mix and match a couple of spaces and put this guy here, put this one there, take this one off, but I think it's pretty legit for the most part. Where would Luka probably fit in all this? I think he could be a top 20. Looking at those guys and remembering their careers and the numbers they put up, their style of play, the way they approach the game, night in and night out. I believe Luka's of that ilk. I can even say he can go top 15. He may go top 10. It's possible. I'm looking at some of these lists. I mean, these guys were great. Don't get me wrong, but they're different eras. These talents now are evolved now. They're faster. They're smarter. The game has evolved. Rules have evolved, which helps these players in this era. But I mean, the players can't do anything about that. But for the most part, yeah, I can see Luka definitely maybe top 12, top 10. If he finishes his career averaging about 25, 8 and 8, he's well on his way. Looking at this list and comparing him to more of a Magic Johnson, that big guard, that's who he reminds me of more so than Jason Kidd or Steve Nash or those type of guys. Russell Westbrook was just an athletic freak. He's a better shooter than Russell. Chris Paul was a better defensive player, all-around player. Luka's not really a defensive guy. He's more of an offensive threat or presence, and he's a leader. I can definitely see him. Top 15, I can see that. I can definitely see that. He has that magic quality about himself, that Isaiah Thomas stick-to-itness. He sees the floor so well, and he's such a team player. That's what I love about him. We have some of these point guards nowadays. They're, I want to say selfish, but they're more me guys when it comes to scoring. And that's the evolution of the game. I don't want to get caught up in, how the game used to be or how it should be. This is the game. We're going to continue to evolve this thing, continue to create and broaden it. I don't like to limit these guys, but there is something to having the core elements or core fundamentals of the game intact. And Luka has that. He has to work on his defense, like I said, and depending on how he takes care of his body. He's kind of slow. I mean, he gets up the court, but if he takes good care of his body, eats right, put the proper things in his body and mature in that way, I think he'll, bar an injury, I think he'll finish probably top 15, maybe even top 10.